Once you can close the loop of multimodal AI agent, the type of data you generate may be different.
Welcome to How AI Happens, a podcast where experts explain their work at the cutting edge of artificial intelligence. You'll hear from AI researchers, data scientists, and machine learning engineers as they get technical about the most exciting developments in their field and the challenges they're facing along the way. I'm your host, Rob Stevenson, and we're about to learn how AI happens. All right. Hello, all of you wonderful folks out there in podcast land. It's me, Rob, back again with another instant classic installment of How AI Happens. I'm so sure. Where do I even begin with my awesome guest today? She has such an amazing curriculum vitae. She was the head of research at Snap. She was the founding global head of R&D and the co-founder of Cloud AI and ML at Google, a chief AI fellow at Accenture. She co-instructed the inaugural course of generative AI and medicine at Stanford University, and currently she is serving as the co-founder, chief AI officer, and president for LiveX AI. Jia Li, welcome to the podcast. I'm so pleased you're here today. How are you?
Thank you, Rob. It's an honor to be on this podcast and share my perspective about AI.
I'm not being polite when I say the honor is truly all mine. I'm a clown with a microphone, and you have this amazing, rich background. But yeah, would you mind sharing a little bit about the courses you periodically duck into Stanford to teach?
So, of course, everything is about AI, right? So I started to teach at Stanford back in 2018 when I was leading Google's enterprise AI. And I got super fascinated about how AI is making impact in different verticals and our everyday life. I started to teach as an adjunct professor in several classes AI. The most recent was obviously about Gen AI. It is the most difficult class to teach, mostly because this field is advancing so fast every day. Yeah, so nowadays I'll be invited to go to events at Stanford or teach one class to share what is the latest on Gen AI. And hopefully the experience about practicing AI and innovating AI in the real world scenario can inspire more students at the university.
Yeah, that's interesting that obviously generative moves so quickly, and it's the case for the eager young minds of tomorrow as it is for the professionals in the space. So you said you go in there and you kind of tell them what is the latest. Is it about updating them on kind of what is coming out? Are you also trying to give them the tools to sort of stay abreast of the space?
Mostly about sharing perspectives. And obviously, the students are super hands-on themselves, like even those from the business school and medical school, everybody is embracing Gen AI and everybody is getting that hands-on wow moment with it.
That's great. So it's not just the STEM students, it's sort of a wider swath of people.
Totally. That was a surprise to me, actually.
Yeah. Kids these days and their generative AI, am I right?
Kids as well as experienced entrepreneurs and business leaders. That was really, really impressive.
Yeah, of course. Could you give us like a quick taste, a quick sample, like the most recent time you went over and taught a class? What were you trying to cover?
Well, the most recent ones are obviously about the Gen AI, right? So actually, I have an upcoming one that I'm going to share what is the future of AI agents.
That's a tough corner to look around, Jia. What is your perspective? Where do you come down on what the future of AI agents is going to look like?
Yeah, I think it's essentially I hope to demystify a little bit about AI agents. And oftentimes we see a lot of fancy demos, right? On the other hand, the tech companies, startups are practicing how to put that in real world. I think it's always great to learn about what is the gap and how to bridge the gap and what is the tech boundary and how to define a product with the understanding there is technical limitation. I think that's very, very important. And personally, I'm very, very excited about AI agents. Essentially, it really, if we think of Gen AI, the two most prominent advantages, one is how it will help to interact almost like a human. And second, when there are massive amount of information, how to connect the dots. So agents really help to do both and really help for us to transform how we interact with products, how we interact with services, how we interact with even hardware devices.
So when you say agents, are you speaking about a co-pilot, a chatbot, an LLM trained on a company's proprietary data, that sort of use case?
Those are a subset of what agents are capable of. But as we probably have seen or heard from many technical leaders, really AI agent, one of the top application is for customer experience, is how it can simulate customers, customers support or sales agents or product education, etc. So to meet the customers where they are, right? So it's just the beginning, right? So there is a lot of potential impact down the road. Hopefully in the ultimate days, every one of us would have a super AI agent that understands us and can help us to handle everything in everyday living, in our work, and in education, pretty much everything.
I'm glad to hear you are prioritizing this mission of demystifying AI, that you are putting together talks around. I know you have some conference appearances coming up where you're going to be speaking on this topic. And the reason that I'm pleased about it is because, on the one hand, it would be very easy for someone with your background to decide that that was beneath you, frankly, to be like, I am not going to explain to people why this is so exciting. I'm going to work on the exciting parts. But you don't have that ego about it, which I think really speaks to your character and your background. And also why it's so important is because, like, all the people listening to this, I'm assuming we're all AI practitioners here, we not including myself, but they all understand the opportunity. They all understand like that what is possible and why this is so exciting. And it feels like other areas of the business maybe don't as much. They don't understand like all of the specifics. They know that there's hype around it. They think that it's just this thing that they can implement and it'll solve all their problems. And so there is a little bit of education and a reality check necessary. And so what I wanted to ask you, Jia, is when you see some of these agent use cases, right now there is this willingness to try on the part of the non-technical business leaders to invest. Do you think that the tools and tech is going to be sufficiently advanced and helpful for these folks for them to continue investing in it?
It is a very good question. And really for everyone, there might be a personalized way to do it, right? So what I observe is that first, AI agents is not as magic as all the hype described, right? So mainly like fancy demos or AGI, etc. We're not there yet. But on the other side, there is another extreme of thoughts. Okay, Gen AI make mistakes. That's why it's useless. I think it's neither of this. It's actually something in the middle for people who can understand the technical boundary and the real world challenges that it can solve, and also can define the product very well to tackle such problem, right? So that is why I'm always excited to discuss and share with people who are interested in AI agents and in Gen AI in general. I feel down the road, or even right now, it really requires interdisciplinary collaboration, that people who are domain experts understand the real world challenge, and people who can understand both the technology and the real world challenge and can talk with both the tech side as well as product side as well as the domain side, right? So all these people should come together, all the thoughts should come together in order to build the most advanced. That is one aspect of this. In addition, right, so there are a lot of painful lessons that I myself or our team has gone through. I hope to share this with the rest of the community so that they don't have to go through or repeat the same mistakes, right? So typically for AI agent, right, so that goes back to, okay, what kind of companies are you in, and what is your best advantage as an expert in either product in development or in business side, right? So I think that's very important to understand, and it's very important to collaborate, not only as individuals as well as teams across teams within companies, or even partnering with different companies, right? Think of, Apple, Samsung, they're very advanced in their own way. I mean, in their own domain already. And they are collaborating with the Google, the OpenAI, or the alike, right? For myself, I felt there are big tech companies. They have a lot of resource and they have a lot of talent. But there are so many SMBs, small and mid-size companies. How can myself help? How our company could help all these companies so that they can be equipped with Gen AI, they can benefit from the AI agent. That's why I felt it is very important to really have more sharing and collaboration within the field. Yeah, particularly for AI agent, for us, one of the two biggest challenges we learned, one is the latency, and the second is the accuracy, right? So especially in everyday living, right, you need to solve a lot of mission critical tasks. If something is broken, you want to try agent to figure out how can you fix it, right? Instead of chit chat, okay, help you keep you companion, right? So there are a lot of opportunities in that direction too, but I felt for the mission critical tasks in education, in healthcare, in everyday living, there are so many problems that requires really highly accurate approaches to handle that. So that often associated with the algorithm advancement of the algorithm, sometimes the model size, and the vast amount of data that can represent the problem that you are dealing with, right? So it needs a lot of effort into it. Really, how do you come up with the most accurate algorithm or agent to solve the problem? And that leads to the first challenge I mentioned, right? So oftentimes in agent, you need to have multiple steps. You need to think about, especially in the complex scenario, think about, how do I plan to solve this problem? And once you have different steps in your planning and you execute each of these steps, right? So that will inevitably create a long latency. So having an efficient algorithm, having an efficient hardware and software optimization is really, really valuable. That's why for our company, LiveX AI, we actually, while we are empowering the SMB companies for their customer experience, we do collaborate with advanced tech companies like NVIDIA or Google so that we can leverage the best of hardware, of cloud, and make it scalable so that we can empower many of the businesses who care about their customer experience.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was interested to hear that you prioritize latency so much. Accuracy, obviously, it needs to be right. I was surprised to hear you call it latency just because it felt like a foregone conclusion. Like, well, yeah, of course it should be fast. We all know that, right? But I assume there's more to it than that. Would you mind just extrapolating a little bit on why latency is so crucial?
Totally. If we think Gen AI is gradually transforming how we are interacting with the product or devices, and services, right? So in the past, the expectation of you are interacting with, for example, a customer support, you file a ticket, you send an email, and you're willing to wait for like 24 hours to get the answer, right? And nowadays, because of the advancement of Gen AI, there are AI agents that can hear, can chat, can see and show all the aspects about the product for you. Then the customer's expectation is very different, right? So when they come, obviously they want to hear the answer immediately. They have seen the magic of how you are chatting with, ChatGPT or Gemini, etc., right? So now the user behaviors are gradually changing so that they will expect the brands or the product web pages, or when they make a phone call, they want to have the immediate response for it in an accurate way, right? So that is very, very different expectation than the Gen AI.
Yeah, certainly. Isn't it interesting that we don't extend the same courtesy to these really advanced technologies that we might extend to even like a faceless, anonymous human being?
Yeah, of course, because as human, we are so busy, and especially in customer experience side, right? So the call center, every agent are so busy handling so large call volumes, and you always have I'm not so sure if you have that experience. I had to call multiple departments, got transferred from one department to the other, and have to repeat my identity, age, etc. multiple times, right? And every time, many of these is repetitive effort on both sides, right? So it is a lot of efficiency and productivity improvement that Gen AI can bring to even assist the customer experience agent.
Certainly. And I guess in the case of customer support, I shouldn't say that people extend more empathy to human beings than they do to a machine. I'm sure call support people are treated very brusquely and rudely because they're speaking with people who are very frustrated and who want their problem solved right away. But in the case where that was replaced by generative, I mean, shouldn't we extend that empathy? Isn't the thing going to learn from the way we treat it?
I felt it's a transformation that will make our human much more productive and doing more complex or interesting aspects that really can leverage the human empathy aspects, right? So I felt it is more how people are leveraging Gen AI so that they can be more productive, they can offer more better experience than those without. And the human in the loop aspect really gives a lot of value, right? So for example, instead of having a doctor doing all the typing, right? I rather the doctor have spent more time with the patient, listening to them, understand their pain points, and really help them to solve the problems instead of doing all these typing and repetitive but labor intensive type of.
Yeah, certainly. So it's clear why there's so much chatter about AI agents, right? Because every business needs it, right? Every business has this need to interface with their customer base. They need to do so at scale. The larger you are, the harder that becomes, more inaccurate, more unreliable from the perspective of the user, right? And so I can see why, this has come up on this show a lot, the chatbots, the LLMs, the copilots, et cetera. You mentioned that those are only a couple. That's a small subset of the use cases. I'm curious if you could rattle off, like, as we go upward in that hierarchy, past that subset of like chatbots, copilots, what are some of those, like, I guess, more executive function type of tasks you anticipate that AI agents can disrupt?
I felt really hoping in the future the AI agent could be personalized, could understand really the pain points, and would offer much more accurate and also personalized care to people. Also, right now, you probably see a lot of tools are chat oriented, right? So, but as human, we interact with our five senses, with our perception, we can see, right? And we can talk. And from the voice tone, I'm happy or not, right? Also, we can type, and there are more, right? So there are even more advanced research in the research field. But I hope in the future there could be multimodal AI agent that is personalized for everyone, which is going to be much more convenient. Also can help much more about the privacy, security perspective, about even everyday living perspective.
So that does feel inevitable, doesn't it? That it will be multimodal, that it won't merely be text-based or even audio-based. So even like, we have the voice assistants whose name I will not say because she's listening and I don't want her to chirp up on our episode. But that is an example of multimodal, right? And it's not merely because it is easier than typing with your thumbs. I do think the idea is that it's more natural. Or perhaps it's easier because it's more natural, but that does feel inevitable, right? That we will wish to interact with our technology the same way we interact with other members of our species and with the world around us, right? With just like our five senses, our modalities. Are we talking about the metaverse here, Jia?
I think it's definitely a critical component of it, right? So there will be the remote metaverse to connect with each other, even have a community around it. But from the human nature perspective, there are a lot of things that in the real world we will handle too, right? So even in the physical world, how nowadays there are a lot of innovative approaches are thinking about robotics and humanoid, etc. So I bet multimodal is one of the most critical aspect of that too.
Yeah. This is the fun stuff. So this is what I wanted to ask you about as well, Jia. Like we said, the use case for all the AI agents, well established, every business needs it. That makes a ton of sense. But you also, because of your background and just expect because of your curiosity, right? You kind of have your finger on the pulse of a lot going on in this industry. So I'm just curious what your personal opinion is when you think of the really, really exciting areas of research and development within AI and ML. What kind of makes you excited? What kind of stokes that wonder in you?
I'm still not satisfied with where we are with the multimodal AI agent aspect. If you look at the most advanced multimodal models are out there, even the public benchmark, which is fairly limited, that we get 60% understanding visual content and video on content, etc. Right? So there is a lot of promising progress already, but I felt we still need some time to solve that problem. With that, it is mainly from the understanding perspective, right? What about context? How do we encode the long-term memory and the short-term memory or context when we are thinking about a problem, when we are doing planning, when we are trying to do reasoning? There are just so much that we still need to do, and we're far from being there yet.
This is the really, really interesting part of multimodality, which is that how do you, like you just said it, how do you encode that data that is maybe not text-based? And like as humans, there's tons of information that we get via text, right? Tons. But it's so much of what we do and see and how we learn happens in these subconscious processes in our brain we don't fully understand. It maybe or definitely aren't binary, definitely aren't, right, a text. So do you have any notion of what that might look like if we were to move beyond training these tools with text and images, which images are then like encoded into text, which feeds it, right? Videos too. How do we do that? How do we encode multimodal experience without text?
Right now, we have already seen a lot of the joint multimodal training approaches. So far, it really shows the potential, right? For example, in the voice speech recognition, think of in the past is you have to transcribe or recognize, do speech recognition, and then you do language understanding, and then you synthesize the voice so that you can get the voice output, right? But by understanding from the voice from the audio and language jointly, one can easily predict, hey, like when this person is going to stop or pause, right? So you can actually do the prediction instead of in the past, you're doing recognition and you do multiple steps in order to get the voice coming out of the multiple steps, right? So I felt similarly for visual, video, voice, and language. Jointly, you'll see a lot of new signals and new insights coming out of that. So I felt that is really the holy grail that people would not only do understanding, but you can understand while predict at the same time, right? Anticipating and prediction and understanding and responding to it. So I felt that is very promising that someday we'll get to it. Right now, there's still a lot of work to be handled, right? So that's why I felt for AI agent, in order to reach there, I think one of the biggest challenge besides the how from the model, algorithm, or compute perspective is data, right? Think of in the past, as I mentioned, the way we interact with AI, be it the search in the last generation, right? Or be the chat or email, file a ticket, or, phone call. The data you have is very different. And the human behavior interacting with it is very different. And that's why, once you can close the loop of multimodal AI agent, the type of data you generate might be different.
Yeah. When you said it's the holy grail, you kind of explained this process of like, okay, you have multimodality and you're able to take in all that information and synthesize it and make a judgment, right? That's the holy grail. It's not just merely how do we represent taste, for example, in data. It's like it needs to also be fed into something that can make a judgment. Now we're approximating AGI, right? Now we're approximating something that can take all of the inputs that humans input and then come up with, right? Like some kind of insight, some kind of intuition, some sort of judgment and action to take, which is exciting. And I gotta say, you really just unlocked something for me, Jia, because I was feeling I'm going to confess, I was feeling a little negative about the AI agent space before this conversation. And part of it is because, I'm interviewing someone next week. He's a Google DeepMind researcher. He's published a paper about, he's figured out how to magnetically control tokamak plasmas with deep reinforcement learning in order to make nuclear fusion more reliable and easier and faster and cheaper, blah, blah, blah.
It's exciting.
It's very exciting, right? And so I was like, man, that's pretty awesome. He's working on using deep reinforcement learning to create nuclear fusion. But then there's all this money and all these people who are making better chatbots. And in my mind, that was like not so exciting. But then the way you explained it, where it's like, look, the AI agents, as they get better and better, what are we doing here? We're approximating being able to speak to a human and it giving you a reasonable answer back. Like today, chatbot, tomorrow, AGI, right?
Hopefully, probably not tomorrow, right? I think we will gradually experience, hey, it is getting better, and it can solve a lot of problem and more problem. I think that's how we are going to approaching the ultimate goal. But right now, we're definitely several tomorrows or many, many tomorrows to go.
Several tomorrows, at least a week away. Jia, this has been really fun speaking with you. Thank you for walking me through all of this and for giving me a new perspective. And I hope the folks out there listening had that experience too. This was a delight. I would have you back on any time. I mean that. You're doing amazing work. So as we creep up on optimal podcast length here, I'll just say thank you very, very much for coming here and for sharing all of your experience and thoughts with us. It's been a delight for me.
Thank you. My pleasure. And thank you, everybody.
How AI Happens is brought to you by Sama. Sama provides accurate data for ambitious AI. Specializing in image, video, and sensor data annotation and validation for machine learning algorithms in industries such as transportation, retail, e-commerce, media, medtech, robotics, and agriculture. For more information, head to sama.com.